This is Tim Bryce with my column entitled Some Thoughts on Memorial Day. On Monday, we will commemorate Memorial Day, a custom in this country resulting from our Civil War where we honored the dead soldiers of both the North and the South. Originally, it was called Decoration Day, an expression older people would occasionally use, as I remember from my youth. The intent was to honor the soldiers by decorating their graves either with small flags, flowers, or some other small tribute. Actually, the custom of honoring deceased soldiers is an old one, going back to the Romans. Today, Memorial Day is celebrated more as the start of summer vacation and the Indianapolis 500, as opposed to remembering the millions of soldiers who gave their lives in the service of their country, which is rather disappointing. Fortunately, there are still people who commemorate the day with a small town parade or observe a military service at a nearby cemetery. Two of the most impressive services is at the Tomb of the Unknowns at the Arlington National Cemetery and Gettysburg National Cemetery in Pennsylvania. You remember, the place where Lincoln delivered his famous address 7 years ago? It's actually the last paragraph of Lincoln's address which defines the meaning of Memorial Day. He said, "But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth." One custom commonly overlooked on Memorial Day is the display of the American flag. The proper etiquette is to raise it briskly to the top of the staff and then solemnly lower it to the half-staff position where it remains until noon. It is then raised to full staff for the rest of the day. Those of us with modest-side flags at home should simply display them proudly. The one event I particularly enjoy is the National Memorial Day concert in Washington, D.C. and televised on PBS. They do an admirable job of remembering our troops. Let us not forget, Memorial Day is not about barbecues, auto racing, the end of the school year, or the beginning of summer. It's about honoring our fallen heroes. Friends, keep the faith. This is Tim Bryce in Palm Harbor, Florida. Follow me on the internet at timbryce.com.